Please rise for silent invocation, followed by Pledge of Allegiance. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilman Foley?
Here.
Councilman Gifford?
Here.
Councilman Green?
Here.
Vice Mayor Gross?
Here.
Mayor Stillman?
Here. We have 5-0. Everybody's in attendance tonight. Before we get started, I just want to make a public comment. I got several emails late this afternoon in regards to a piece of property that is contiguous to the Spruce Creek Fly-In and Quiet Place in the Country. And we just wanted to take a moment to make sure everybody, you're welcome to speak on the one that's on the agenda tonight, but it is not that property. That property that you see in pink there is the Creek Crossings property that a lot of folks were emailing thinking the agenda item tonight is that project, and that is not the project on agenda item 16. That being said, if you wish to speak to agenda item 16, which is the property that is not between the Fly-In and Quiet Place that borders out onto Airport Road, that will be an agenda item later in the meeting on 16, and you'll be welcome to do that. We just didn't want people who were thinking it was the other property to sit through an entire meeting tonight and at the end of the thing, because that happens sometimes, and then they're kind of upset at us that they thought they were here for something that's not an agenda item. We can't speak to the other project. By the way, that's not a Port Orange agenda item. That's something in the unincorporated part of the county. That being said, item 4. Any public comments on consent agenda items only? Consent agenda items only this evening. Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to pull item 8 from consent for further discussion.
Okay. Are there any other items council wishes to pull tonight? Councilman Green, can you give us a motion to approve consent agenda excluding item 8 to be pulled?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilman Foley?
Yes.
Councilman Gifford?
Yes.
Councilman Green?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gross?
Yes.
Mayor Stillman?
Yes. 5-0. Agenda item 8. Approval of school resource officer agreement between Volusia County School Board and the City of Port Orange. Councilman Green, what
I
you got
pulled
there?
this item.
I'm sorry. Let's get a motion. Motion.
Move to
second.
approve item 8.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Go ahead, Councilman Green.
I pulled this item just because, again, I wanted to discuss this as a board and discuss, you know, the full picture of this particular item. We are being asked to fund and to provide 2 officers to 2 schools. And I don't want to be the naysayer on this either, but this is an item that is the responsibility of the school board and whoever they have an agreement with the sheriff's office. But to do this, it's going to cost us, as Port Orange, it's going to cost us $76,150 per year, plus the expenses of an officer, which is going to be 2 cars, uniforms, etc. So I think this is just another situation where I think this is a school board issue. We're taking 2 sworn officers out of the rotation of the police department. We're going to put them in the schools for 9 months or however long the school is, 181 days. And then we're going to have to figure out how to put them back into the rotation and how that goes. And again, I'm just saying we're coming up on budget time and we're literally pinching pennies on this board. And to say that we're going to now spend another $76,000 plus cars, plus this, plus we already run traffic. I just want to put that out there that's my position on this. I think this is something that the school board should be doing, and I don't see as how we have this additional funds to fund pulling 2 officers away from the police department to put on a school campus. That's all I got on that.
Councilman Gifford.
So, Do I understand that a school resource officer is not necessarily a Port Orange police officer?
They are sworn
Chief,
officers.
did you, or, Mr. City Manager, do you want to have the police chief maybe come up and answer some of the questions if they're going to pertain to the SRO?
Yeah, we can do that. 'Cause
I know the answer, but I'll let we got this great qualified guy to come up.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. Manny Marino, Chief of Police. So they are, currently they're school resource deputies that are in there. The idea is that the Port Orange officers would now replace them, starting at the middle schools. The reimbursement from the county, they reimburse the sheriff's office the same amount that they're looking to reimburse us. That $76,000 is for the 2 officers. 50% of the 180 days that they're on campus is the way that works. Just to be clear too, we are the last municipality in Volusia County to not have school resource officers in our own schools. So we were the last holdout. It was ourselves, Orange City, and New Smyrna, I believe.
Chief, what's the difference though than a guardian versus a school resource officer in this situation?
So the guardians are there mostly for security as an armed safety officer. That's what you'll generally see at the elementary level, is guardians. With the school resource officer, they get more involved with the day-to-day, obviously the safety of the schools, but the threat assessments. If you've seen any of the posts that the sheriff's put out, I can't tell you how many online and anonymous threats that we get, that we deal with weekly. School resource officer is responsible for investigating all of those. Any issues that crime on or around campus, they handle all of those calls. That'll eliminate a Port Orange patrol officer having to go to the school to handle some of the stuff. If Volusia County is not going to make the arrest, or if it happens just off campus, the school resource officer will take care of all of that.
So we're being reimbursed from the school board for the cost of.
Correct. For
Half.
the 180 days, half
Okay.
for the time that they're on campus, and that was the 76,000. It equates to about 38 and change per officer. And so, you know, between the 2 middle schools and our 2 high schools, it's a population of almost 7,000 people between students, teachers, and staff.
And they have full policing power. That means they can arrest somebody.
They can. And the other question Councilman Green brought up, so when school's not in session, they'll have to take care of any training requirements to keep their certification up. But if they're able to, we'll reassign them back to patrol for the time that they're off campus. So
Who's responsible for paying for that additional training?
it's part of what we have to. So we're required by FDLE to hit a certain mandate every year. So generally what you'll do is you'll have your SROs do that in the summertime, so we're not having to pull them out of school and then have somebody cover for them.
And so, and the reason we're being asked to do this is because we don't have 2 officers now. We're the only city that doesn't. So we're not replacing officers that are leaving. We didn't have them there in the first place.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Between the 2 councilmen asking the questions, Foley and Gephardt, you've answered everything I needed as far as this goes. I mean, the big one to me is not knowing that we didn't have SO there already. And it's,
The SO's there.
They're there.
they're there at the middle schools.
Yes, so they'll be pulling out, and we'll have Port Orange officers there. The other side of that too is you want the Port Orange officers there interacting. Ideally, you know, unfortunately, when we had our issues with the vacancies, we lost our DARE officers who taught at the elementary level. You want to be able to have interactions with these students from the time, right, they're little. So you start with DARE in elementary, and when the officers check out at the schools, and then the idea is that now they have a Port Orange officer as their SRO that they feel comfortable with, and then by the time they get to high school, they've had a Port Orange officer in their schools for, you know, all their teenage years as well. And so by the time they reach adulthood, they're comfortable with the police department. You know, it's a way to build that interaction. If you saw, it's important, if you saw the arrest we made over the weekend, that started with a victim approaching the SRO to tell them, you know, what had happened with the case that we had the sexual battery on. And that student felt comfortable enough to go to the SRO and tell them that. So that's where you want to get the relationship to be, and that takes time, and that's, you know, interacting with the kids every day. So.
Okay.
That was going to be kind of my comment, is that this is really doing it the way it should have been done in the first place. And that's not a knock on the sheriff's office, by the way, but just picture that internally in our city, these are our residents and our residents' kids. And so you're bringing in basically an outside agency to come in and serve as a function that's having that day-to-day contact. And we, as a municipal police department, are losing a lot of opportunities to gain that mentorship, gain that familiarity. There's countless benefits to us being there as opposed to the sheriff's office. Again, that's not a knock on the sheriff's office, and I can assure you that many decades ago, and the chief can probably support this, that's how everybody wanted to do it in municipalities. It just wasn't able to happen as fast as it could be with the counties putting their people into the resources. So this has been a long time coming, and this really is the way to do it, because if something happens at the schools, and they do happen frequently, it's our people that are closest anyhow. It's our officers that are going there to support that, whether it's the officer on campus, the support officers coming in, investigators coming in, whatever that is, it's our people that are going to get there the fastest. And we need to have that familiarity, that sharing of intelligence and information and all those different things. This is the right way to do it, and like the chief said, for all the other reasons, it just is time. And yes, there is a cost to that, but there's also going to be a value, and that value is tough to measure. I would concede that, but having come out of the law enforcement world, I can tell you this is going to be a much better thing for the residents of our community, the children in our community that attend that school, the employees, and our police department as well. I mean, hands down, it will be a better way to do it for sure.
So my understanding, this will be in addition to the resource officers, or they're going to take the resource officers out to replace them with one of our officers?
They'll be replacing the existing school resource deputies. So now they'll be, our Port Orange school resource officers will be on campus.
So do we know what happens to those two deputies? Where do they go? Or
I'm sure they'll be reassigned somewhere else to a different function.
Because in reality, you just made mention, I mean, how many residents and how many teachers are in these two middle schools at any given time during school?
Well, that's including the high schools. I can get you
Okay.
the numbers. I have them.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not meaning to be specific about the numbers.
I
More
think it's close to
point-
3,000 for the middle schools.
Right.
Just the two middle schools is pretty much 3,000.
Sure. Irregardless, my point was going to be that's a lot of responsibility on one officer. Period. One person. And so, I think I saw a little bit of a sticker shock when I saw the hourly rate, and then you realize the amount of responsibility that you're talking about. Laying on somebody's shoulders. It comes with proper compensation. So.
Well, and to put it into additional context, I mean, it's been a long time for me, but I can remember when there were times where there were more calls for service at a single school in a given day than there were at some of the zones that we had staffed. So that's a lot of people in a very dense area, and there's things that happen and calls that have to be responded to and stuff like that. So that does happen.
No, I share your view, Scott. I think it's beneficial for us to have that intel right at our fingertips in our department.
So Chief, let me ask you, and again, I'm sorry to beat on this horse like this, but again, it's an additional expense to Port Orange
Right.
by about $100,000 a year, roughly speaking, when we talk about the full package of the officers, the cars, et cetera, that the county or the school board would be paying otherwise, correct?
Correct.
And so what happens if one of these are, so are you going to take two guys and say, you're the two guys?
Yes.
What happens if one of them goes on vacation?
We'd have to have the school covered.
By who? And so is there special training for this?
There is. You're required to do, I believe it's up to 6 months to be certified as an SRO. And then there's some additional training that deals with people in crisis, deals with ADA requirements with the school board itself.
How many people are you going to get trained?
So I have right now 5 total.
You'll have 5 trained people that could go and fill the position on any given day?
Yeah, if you needed short term, that's allowable. If you were going to replace someone, you'd have to have all that training done within a certain time frame.
Right.
So if it's a 1-day thing or 2 days,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
whatever reason,
Okay.
any officer can go over there just for the safety
Oh,
aspect of
vacation
it.
time, whatever, yeah.
Correct. Now, we would encourage them, obviously, to take their vacation when school's out, because they'll be off for Christmas break, they'll be off for the summertime. So ideally, I mean, granted, there's death in the family, things happen.
Yeah,
But ideally, they'll be, really encouraged to take their time off when school's not in session.
In the summer times, is it going to be a problem for you to fit them back into the rotation, or?
No, it'll actually alleviate, because you'll obviously we have officers with families that do want to take vacation, so in some cases, if staffing's too short, they'd have to call somebody in on overtime. If the SRO is available, they can come backfill some of those positions for the summer, so, when they're there.
Okay.
They will have to cover, there's sometimes a week or two if that particular school has summer school, but it's generally only usually 2 weeks.
Okay, and I'm just, my point being this, guys, is that, again, this is an additional cost. I fully agree, it's the right thing to do. I just want to be, everyone to be aware, as we come into budget time, this is another additional cost that we gotta have to all think about, and I'm just pinching pennies here, Chief. I'm sorry, but I'm pinching pennies at the same time.
Yep.
And I would turn to the county or school board and say, just give us a full credit, and we'll do it if that's what we're doing, but it's still an added expense, so that's all I got on this issue. Thank you.
Good. Anybody from the public wish to speak to this item?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Back to council. Any more comments? No? Clerk, call the roll.
Councilman Foley?
Yes.
Councilman Gephardt?
Yes.
Councilman Green?
No.
Vice Mayor Groves?
Yes.
Mayor Sillman?
Yes, 4-1. Public participation, non-agenda. It looks like all the ones I got are for agenda item 16, so that we're done for non-agenda. So that brings us to council comments on item 13. Let's start with you, Councilman Foley.
I just want to say I had a great time at the mayor's tournament. Thought really staff did a great job this week, and not just because me and my team came in second place. Shout out to Matt Jones down there. Yeah, we had a good time, right, Matt?
All 3 shots, he said.
That's right. No, it was great. Seriously, it was cool to play a tournament where we had big prizes for people to win. And it seemed like everybody had a good time. Weather was great, and staff did a really good job of just being out there and making it fun. So just kudos to that.
Tracy?
So I want to go back and just real quickly on consent agenda, item number 12, the resolution of 25-33. Those that didn't read all of them, this is a big deal. This is a land exchange between the school board system and the city, allowing us to exchange properties from Silver Sands and Horizon Elementary to put all of our ball fields or sports fields together in one location. It doesn't seem like a big deal that we're doing exchange from property to property, but what it does is it allows the families to be able to have multiple ages and multiple fields in one location. It also allows us to have staffing in one location. So it's actually a big to-do, and I want to reach out and personally thank Susan and her staff for Parks and Recreation, suggesting and proposing the deal and having it come to fruition now. It's an amazing thing, so thank you guys for what y'all do. Saying that, Willow Run Park has an ideal meeting as far as what to be proposed for that park also, and that's coming up on Saturday, June 28th at 9 a.m. at Horizon Elementary. For those that live in that area, June 28th, 9 a.m., come and suggest and see what they're suggesting, but also suggest what we may not have thought about. This is a public to anybody that lives in Port Orange to come out, but especially for those that are going to use that area. Come in and put your input. And then while I was gone, Dove Street House, great job, Matt, getting teams and everything together to be able to take care of the property and get the process through. And at the same time, I got good news for Sugar Forest. Judge has signed off. I got that news literally about 45 minutes ago from Matt. So what that means is it's in the process of the final stages, so that's coming. You're getting there. So the judge has got the sign off, so we're getting there for Sugar Forest for the property and the house nuisance. So that's coming, and it's going to be a happy day. Lastly, Art House. Art House has summer camp programs that are going on. It was a pretty amazing thing. Yesterday I had my council meeting with Wayne and staff, and we had a gaggle of kids come around City Center, and we were counting kids, and I couldn't count so many, and I point blank asked Carmen today, and they got 64 kids in camp. And the beauty of that is they are introducing Art House, the Parks and Rec Center, the City Center to all these kids and the parents coming in. So that program continues to grow, and to give a shout out to Art House is they also got accepted by the Ocean Center for the Echo Gallery, and that's the main corridor going into Ocean Center. It has over 80 pieces of artwork that's actually going to be displayed by Art House, which then ties back to our city, and they get an annual amount of visitors of 540,000 people that go through there to see that. So to know that we have Art House in our city, but to see what they do to bring those people to know our city in different locations is pretty remarkable. So big shout out for them. That was just great news today. Okay.
Anything else?
That's it.
Good.
Hey, I just want to mention that our Florida legislature has gotten a budget to the governor, and our fingers are crossed for our appropriations to be approved and not vetoed. So we're keeping an eye on that. I know, Wayne, you've probably got in Juneau all the hard work you guys done, and so we'll see what happens over the next couple days. I want to say a special thank you to Parks and Rec for that fantastic golf tournament this weekend at Cypress Head. I did follow these two guys. We were the team behind them, and I'm telling you right now, you had an attorney and a rock star, and I don't trust their scores one bit. Man, I've never seen so many mulligans on one hole in my life. We're gonna have to change that next year. And I think that is really all I have for right now.
Councilman Green.
I just wanted to make one comment that was on the consent agenda, and it was item 10, and it was the cops hiring program. And I just want to just make a couple of notes that this is an opportunity that we are being funded, and we're not being fully funded, but we're getting 75% of the money for 3 years to hire new police. And after that 3 years, then we will then absorb them full-time ourselves. But I just think that this is a great program, and it's helping getting new police in the door. We have guys that are going to be leaving, and this is a great opportunity to get some money to put new officers on the street. And I just want to make a note that that's a good program, and I'm glad we got involved in it.
A very similar program, just like that, was how I got hired in 1989. There was 4 officers hired, and that year they covered 100%. The following year, 75, then 50, and after that, the city decided to keep me around for a little while. So I was thinking.
Well, I mean, when we get into budget time, we're talking budget time. We just talked about budget time on another issue, so that's why I think this is it's good for the people to know, because it was on consent and it just kind of got voted in. But it is funding for 3 new officers that eventually will become full time.
Sure.
That's all I got.
Anything else? All right. I just want to echo the comments about the golf tournament. I want to thank our Parks and Recreation staff and Kemper Sports. They did an amazing job. The course looked incredible. We had a goal this year to raise $10,000 for our Parks and Rec Youth Athletic Scholarship Fund. That's a mark that we haven't ever achieved, and congratulations to Parks and Rec that we were able to achieve that for the first time this year and get to that amount. And so there will be a lot of children and families that are not able to pay for some of the fees to participate in certain programs and things that will have that opportunity now to get that funding from that. So kudos to everybody. It was a sellout event. We've already got folks looking to kind of position themselves for some of the sponsorships next year, that's a great thing. When the sponsors are fighting over themselves to be able to be sponsors for that event and certain types of sponsors, that is a really good thing. So congratulations to everybody. It's been a long history. I think it was this was the 38th year. Is that right? Did I hear Susan saying yes over there somewhere? I believe close to 38. Yeah, almost 40 years that tournament's been going on, and so it's a great event. I wish more people could participate, but there's only so many you can put on a golf course at one time. I mentioned this to the city manager, but for council to know and for the clerk to maybe be prepared to work on. I spoke today with House Representative Chase Tremont. Got a few updates from him. He would like to be on an agenda in July, if we can make that work. He would like to come and give us legislative updates and briefing, because there was a lot in Tallahassee this year. So he would like to do that. If you guys can work on one of the agenda dates in July or early August at the latest, let's get Representative Tremont in here. And certainly if Senator Wright would like to come and do the same thing on a night or whatever, that would be appropriate as well. So, and that's all I've got for right now. How about we go to item 14, city attorney comments.
Yeah, just on the 717 Dove, I wanted to say that there were a bunch of folks involved in that. Code enforcement, fire, building officials, so a lot of folks acting quickly to abate that safety issue there. Just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Great work. Item 15, city manager comments.
I don't have anything, but I'm going to have Robin get up and briefly tell you, we're in the process of switching over our utility billing software. It's something that when we made the full switch out of Naviline into Tyler, this was one of the other major things that was coming, was upgrading how we do utility billing to modern software. And with that happening in the next month, Robin's going to give you a briefing on where we
By the
stand.
way, I hope I'm not stealing Robin's thunder, but I just want to give credit. I love the fact that when you go to our city website right now, it is an automatic pop-up that's right there in your face. I love it. Great idea, whoever came up with that. Go ahead and take credit for it, Robin, even if it wasn't yours. Go ahead.
All right, Robin Fenwick, Assistant City Manager. As the mayor said, just wanted to give you guys a quick update on the switch from our old legacy system to the new Tyler. We switched our finance and HR functions about a year or so ago. This is just the next step with that, and that's going to be our utility billing. It'll be just a much better process, no third-party billing through Paymentus. But the old system will go down on Monday, June 23rd, so you will not be able to make any payments online as of June 23rd. And we expect that to take about 2 weeks to do the full switch over, and we'll be back up by July 7th. So just 2 days before my birthday, so presents are accepted.
Okay.
So July 7th, we'll be back up. And then at that time, we'll be able to create new accounts. If you pay online, if you do online billing, you will need to set up a new account. If you want to see your history in there, it'll be your history moving forward. We will lose everything, not lose it, but you won't be able to see it online, what you see today, because it's a whole new system. So you'll need to create a new account. It'll start creating your history moving forward, and you'll be able to set up your auto pay at that point as well. If you pay on the phone currently, if you call and give your credit card or debit card number, you won't be able to do that anymore to a live person. You'll have to call, and it'll be an automated system. We don't want people taking credit card numbers over the phone anymore. It's kind of outdated. So, but you'll still be able to do that through an automated system online or on the phone. And then if you mail in a check or come in to City Hall and say hi to our nice folks, you can still do that through the whole process. None of that will change. You won't have to set up an online access account if you don't want to go online and see what's going on. Come down and talk to us all day long. We did start communications about this through our customer service reps several months ago. As they talked to people, they let them know that they wouldn't be able to call in and do that online or over the phone payment the way that they do it today. So that's been going on. We did put it on our website. Last week we sent out social media posts. We'll continue through all that. We're working almost final approvals on an email that's going to go out by the end of this week that will explain specifically to if you're the group that needs to do something, then you're going to get an email that tells you to do something. If you're a group that you don't need to, you're going to get an email that says you don't need to do anything. And those would be the people that originally set up their account through a voided check. If you're set up through a voided check, you're good. If you want to stay that way, you don't have to do anything. So we also have on the website, there's a banner at the top as well as that pop-up. It's in the latest news. There's frequently asked questions there. If I didn't cover anything here, you guys have questions, we're here to answer it, but also customer service reps are available to assist through the whole transition.
Think of it like, so back in the old days, some of you guys can remember, we used to have those little flip-up phones, the cell phones that had the ABC, DEF, and if you wanted to text, you had to like push it twice. That's our current utility billing system. And the new one is going to be like having a brand new high-level iPhone. So it will be a change, and there are going to be some people who are going to be, need some help when they get to that change, but it's the right way to go to get to the modern phone. So that's what we're doing right now. Everybody has their own way of learning. So for self-sufficient people, like Robin said, you can go on the internet, you can go on our website. Those people figure it out. If you want to talk to a real human, we have real humans you can talk to. You can come down here and talk to them in person. You can talk to them on the phone. So we tried to make sure that whatever way you want to feel comfortable with your brand new Apple phone, you can make it comfortable and get taken care of. We're also not going to be doing shutoffs during the month of July. So if anything happens and any glitches, you're not going to get your water shut off.
That was
So
good.
We'll work on that and take care of that
Good
for you.
decision.
That
Do
was
we-
my
forget
question.
that.
So we're not shutting anybody's water off. Do we have a grace period on
And no
late fees for right now?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Can I, and just one more question, if,
A flip phone is something that you used to have to. Was that the question?
that was
'Cause
actually.
we were all thinking it, but go ahead.
That was my first phone. Was a little slide Sony
right, before
Ericsson.
the
Remember that?
Blackberry.
Yeah, I'm not that young. No, actually, my question was going to be if Grandma Meemaw wants to do an online account but needs help, can she come in here and get help at customer service?
Absolutely.
Someone walk her through that process.
Absolutely.
Because I think there'll be a lot of people who probably still want to set up auto pay and want to have something like that, but it might be easier to have their hand held as they're doing the setup. So.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. That was my concern.
Good question.
Is there
Anybody-
still a group of people that get paper bills?
Yes.
Yes,
And that is still going to continue until, is that correct?
correct.
So,
Unless they choose otherwise.
right, okay.
Anything? Trace? Good? All right.
Good.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. City Manager, anything else? That's it for you. Okay. That'll bring us to the public hearing portion of the meeting. Item 16, second reading of ordinance number 2025-14. Mr. City Attorney.
An ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, annexing approximately 56.5 acres of property located west of Airport Road and north of Charles Street, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing for severability and an effective date.
Can I get a motion and a second to put this item on for discussion?
Go ahead to move to approve ordinance number 2025-14.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. City Manager, do you want to have somebody from Community Development just recap, or you can do it, recap what this is all about here on the agenda item?
Penny will come do it.
Thank you. Hey Penny, how are you?
Hi, good evening. Penelope Cruz, Planning. Let me just get the PowerPoint up real quick.
Yeah, if you can just recap what this is and what it is
Yeah.
not.
I will. All right. So before you can see the graphic here. The property highlighted in blue down here is the proposed annexation property, commonly referred to as Vintage Acres. It's a voluntary annexation. The City of Port Orange does not go out and annex land. A property owner applies to voluntarily annex. Annexations are governed by Florida statute. So there's 3 criteria in Florida statute that we have to analyze for annexations. Whether it's contiguous, whether it is reasonably compact, and not currently part of an incorporated area of another municipality. The staff report that's on record confirms that that is the case, that it meets all 3 of those criteria. Florida statutes also requires that if a property is annexed into a municipality, then the next steps are that the city would have to then process a future land use amendment and a rezoning to change the land use from the county designations to the city designations. So if this annexation is approved tonight on second reading, the applicant has stated that their intent is to apply to change the future land use designation from Volusia County Agricultural Resource and Urban Low Intensity to City Rural Transition, which allows a maximum density of 2 units per acre, and then to rezone the property to a planned unit development to establish the framework for development of a subdivision of up to 113 single-family lots, which would be a maximum density of 2 units per acre, consistent with water's edge across the street. As part of the review, all the applicable developments and departments in the city have reviewed the annexation with regards to any kind of impacts and needs assessments for services and infrastructure. It has been determined that there's adequate capacity and services to accommodate the proposed annexation, as well as the proposed future development of the 113 maximum single-family lots. So that is addressed in the staff report. Those are the main criteria that we review during annexation applications. We did want to just bring to light what is proposed as the next step so that that's transparent to everybody, that if this annexation is approved, the next steps are that the applicant plans to change the future land use and apply for the PUD for up to 113 single-family homes. And staff just also wants to note that, you know, the annexations are not something we commonly see in Port Orange. We don't do a lot of, you know, we don't have a lot of annexation requests these days. So just to clarify, it's not a quasi-judicial decision. It's a legislative decision, and so the council's vote can be based on any legitimate public concern. So just again to summarize what the next steps would be if this would be approved tonight, the applicant would then submit their future land use map amendment application and their application for the rezoning to a PUD. Once those applications have been officially submitted, the city staff would go out and post the property with those large yellow public notice signs on the 3 roadway frontages that the property has. The developer then is required to lead a neighborhood meeting. This is a developer-led neighborhood meeting, not a city public meeting. And that meeting is required to be held prior to the first public meeting, so before going to Planning Commission. So then thereafter would start the public hearing process for the future land use amendment and the PUD rezoning. It requires going to Planning Commission and then 2 readings with City Council because they would both be ordinances. In between there, going to the Volusia Growth Management Commission for review of the land use amendment. And then if all that is approved, the final step would be to submit the subdivision plat and plans for the development of the subdivision. So staff is here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for staff? No, this is second reading for us. Anybody got questions for staff? All right, thank you. We'll go to the public here. All right, I know there's a few that wanted to speak to this, so how about we start with Melvin Stanley? So you get here early, you get to go first. Just introduce yourself, tell us where you live and your name.
Yes,
for us.
sir. Melvin Stanley. I'm in the Spruce Creek Fly-In. If you want the address, it's on the card up
Yes,
there.
sir.
I'm a longtime resident there and active in the community. We have several of our board members here just to listen. We're down to 1 speaker, so we don't waste a bunch of your time. We have a Port Orange address, as you know, but we're in unincorporated county. We're not in your city, though we're a Port Orange address. We're 1,598 properties, including the residential, commercial, 20-some miles of street, taxiways and runway, country club and golf course. We maintain all of our streets, our airport, and our common grounds. The purpose for speaking here is concerning the proposed annexation of the plus or minus 56 acres that's just been talked about, the so-called vintage acres, which borders the fly-in property off Airport Road. The concerns include current drainage and flooding problems, of which we have a pretty bad case of flooding already going on back there. What has occurred from the developments that have been here since I came is along Airport Road. There's a retirement home and there's some other apartment complexes. That has created, when there's heavy rains, enough washback that the water is running into our community instead of out of it there. And that's creating some very significant problems where it runs through our ponds and exits out in a back portion of the creek to go to Spruce Creek. The development I've covered that. The water is flowing out. The flooding issues exist as a compounded problem in conjunction with another proposed development. This is Cross Creek. That one is a real mess for us because if it goes in as proposed, it is definitely going to flood a number of the dwellings in our community. The Spruce Creek Property Owners Association has compiled a significant amount of factual information concerning water levels, flooding, and other issues that have grown over the years. we call it our Public Works Department. It's like your street maintenance department. Those are the people who take care of the infrastructure and the streets. The purpose in compiling.
Mayor, if I may, I'd like to propose to, since they've shown interest in having us one speaker on behalf of the whole group here.
So these other folks are not speaking tonight?
Right.
No, I'm not suggesting.
Okay.
I'm the
Just go ahead and
person
wrap up
speaking
your-
for the Property Owners Association. If other people are individually speaking, they're on.
Go ahead
their
and
own.
wrap up your final thought,
Okay.
there, Mr. Melvin. Mr. Stanley.
We have developed, we've been working with the county, and we're in contact with the water management control people, of which there's more than one. And we have put together a compilation of information that indicates what the problems are. It has the data, it has pictures, it has stuff that we've developed over time. And that's proved to be fairly eye-opening to some folk who are unaware of the issues that may existed around our community. And we're not objecting. We're just saying that anything that contributes to that backfeed is going to be a problem there. And we would offer to any of the council people who are interested. This presentation takes about a half hour. We'd be perfectly happy to do it for you, either individually or if sunlight laws permit more than one at a time. Some of
All
the
right,
county
I gotta-
council people have found it very interesting.
Gotcha. I got to wrap you up there, but
All
I
right.
would encourage you to meet with our city staff on all of that because they've done a considerable amount of legwork as well, and so I think they would appreciate that information.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good.
Sue Larkin.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley. Welcome.
Good evening.
Yeah, welcome.
I'm Sue Larkin. I live at 1924 Whisperwood Way in Port Orange. I'm also in the fly-in. I'm here as a member of the community. A lot of what I was going to say has been covered by Mr. Stanley, but I just wanted to bring to your attention that there are already flooding issues in the area that you're considering annexation and also the areas surrounding it. You're familiar with the Spruce Creek Crossing property. It's 127 acres with proposed 100 houses, over 100 houses to be built on it. My point here is to say that the proposed annexation of Vintage Acres, along with the other development that's being considered, would, in either one of those individually would be bad for us. The combination of the two is going to be devastating. My last point is that I realize developers like to use the term entitlements on the land that they're trying to develop, and I would hope that those entitlements include preserving the surrounding areas and not causing damage to the current residents. Developers and land sellers, yes, have rights, but so do the owners that already live there. And the existing owners have the right to not be detrimentally affected by rezoning and annexation decisions. So I trust that you'll keep those of us already here in mind when you make your decision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to probably mispronounce this. Jan, what's the last name? Albert, thank you. Wasn't sure what that last letter was there. Welcome, Jan.
Hi.
Come on up, welcome.
Mayor and governing members. My name is Jan Albert. I live at 435 Country Circle Drive East along the creek, and there for 40 years, 45 in Volusia County, and I'm a real estate appraiser for 53 years, but I'm not here to talk about values. I have a degree in hydrology and geology. My specialty is water management and evaluating raw land for future subdivision use. This particular Vintage Acres is going to back up to my property. I raise donkeys and mules along that, and I'm not even saying anything about the annexation, but I did want to remind you that this isn't a low impact development. These two developments together, if the other one goes through, are a major impact in the hydrology of the Halifax area. We haven't caught up on the creek, and the basin study is going to show a lot of major issues. And now we have the exit there at Pioneer cutting into the Doris Leaper. Mr. John Palmer is head of the Cocoa branch of the Army Corps of Engineers, and they are very concerned about these things because everything west of airport there is actually going to, if there's, for example, 113 homes is going to create about 125 million gallons of stormwater for every 5-inch rain. And we've had, on average, over 40 years, about 6 of those a season. So that's a lot of stormwater that's supposed to be confined to that property. And that probably isn't going to happen. It's going to end up in the creek. So I'm not here to talk about whether you should annex or not, but I really hope that if you do annex it, that you consider keeping the density low.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
Thank you.
Sharon Sarah? Did I pronounce that right? Yeah. I did? All right. Welcome. Okay, welcome.
Yeah, I'm Sharon Sarah, and I'm also a property owner and resident of Spruce Creek Flying for the last 30 years. Been a real supporter of Port Orange over the last 30 years also. My son grew up here. He was a big YMCA person. You know, that's where he went after school, and it's been a great place for us to live. Our concern is also that by annexing this land, we are going to be put in an extremely bad situation with the floodwaters, as Mr. Stanley, Sue Larkin, and the other woman had talked about. Right now, in the last 2 years, I don't know if everybody's seen the increase in these storms has created just panic during this time of year. Everybody right now is thinking about August rather than thinking about having a good summer. And so the concern is what's going to happen. Within the last 2 years, we've seen the creek surge up into our streets, which I've never seen that happen before, and it's wiped out driveways. It's gone up into homes. So by adding all of these additional homes to this area, and I'm assuming they'll have to build up areas because it's some of it's low-lying land, is that we're going to turn into a fishbowl. And the people who are already here in Spruce Creek are going to suffer the consequences of additional development. So I just would hope that you all would take a kind of a step back and get some additional studies on the impact that this is going to have on Quiet Place in the Country, the impact it's going to have on Spruce Creek. I know you're saying that your services can handle it for Port Orange, but that Port Orange isn't the only affected community. And so please think about your neighbors when you're making a decision as to whether or not to annex, and also when to annex. You know, just make sure that it's a very sound decision before you enter into this. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there anybody else that wanted to speak to item 16? Welcome, Robert.
Mayor, council members, Robert Reinhagen, 1425 Dexter Drive North, Port Orange. You know, I went back and I looked at some of my notes from a year ago when there was a PUD called the Hammock over on Madeline. And it was 3 parcels, and in looking at it, it seemed to me that like 50% of the parcels was either wetland or a pond. And as a result, the developer took all of the houses and put them on one parcel, and then had to fill in some of the wetlands to do that. And they wouldn't, when they took this total number, they wouldn't even concede the acreage that was devoted to commercial. They kept all of those houses. And the council at that time let them get away with that. And I'm hoping that you won't let them get away with that here on this development. To me, wetlands and ponds need to be protected. And therefore, the number of housings permitted should be much less than the 113. That should be a maximum. And then you look to protect the wetlands and reduce that number. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
Anyone else? All right,
Yes,
did
we
the,
do. We have someone else.
I'm sorry, come on,
Come on up.
welcome, introduce yourself.
Good evening, gentlemen. Jeff Anderson, 345 Country Circle Drive West, Port Orange address. Once again, I'm county, quiet place in the country. I live approximately 300 yards from the creek. I've owned the property since '96 and lived on property since 2003. The amount, I think you guys are kind of getting the tenor of what the concerns are. It's not really about the development as much as what is the development going to do to all of us that have been around there for a long time. I'll give you a quick example. One of the problems that we've had in our community is just drainage in general. Culverts underneath streets, 30 years old, rotted out, need to be replaced, roads falling in, all that kind of stuff. The problem is when the county comes out there and takes a look at it, what they don't conceptually understand is the amount of water that comes through the neighborhood on a afternoon when you get 3 or 4 inches of rain, much less the 20 plus inches of rain that we got in 2022. I have a small, one of the things that concerned me was the last meeting, it was referred to as Spruce Creek River. It's not a river, it's a creek. It's a very small estuary. It's not designed to take on the amount of water that it takes on. I have a small estuary that runs through my property that leads to Spruce Creek. Normally, it's about 3 feet wide, about 6 inches deep. Nobody's drowning in it. I have video of my little estuary, 9 to 10 feet deep in the middle and over 200 feet wide. It was a raging river. So it's really about the comprehensive plan, because one of the reasons why I think that it's trying to get annexed to the city, probably thinking it's probably going to be an easier route. Come to you, open hand, hey, bring me into the city. You guys don't do that much. Look at all the tax dollars I'll bring into you. It's not going to come as easily with the county, because there's already the problem with Creek Crossing trying to get their approval. So there really needs to be a comprehensive plan, not about just the 56 acres for vintage, whatever it's called. It's about the additional 120 some acres for Creek Crossing, because 185 acres are bordering Spruce Creek. And that is wetland area. We had a couple tours back there. I didn't go on them because I'm well familiar with the area because I've lived there for all these years. People don't realize that there's areas back there where you're standing 12 feet above the creek. During the storms, they weren't 12 feet above the creek. That creek overflowed. It's insane how much undulation there is in the terrain for Florida when you're this close to the coast, because it's such a flat-lying area. So I really think there needs to be a comprehensive plan that brings all that together before any decisions are made. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Anybody else? Welcome.
Hi. I'm Dr. Wendy Gordon Smith. I live in Spruce Creek, 1947 Spruce Creek Landing, and I wrote your manager a letter today. I happen to live between the village and Creek Crossing, right there, and I can tell you, I just bought flood insurance. I'm not in a flood insurance area, but I had to do it. 3 days after my husband passed, Milton came through. I sat looking out at the pasture because my property abuts that pasture, and I understand capitalistic, you want development, etc. But I sit and think, it's beginning to look like a car dealership here. We moved here 13 years ago. It was beautiful. Now I'm seeing houses and houses and houses, and houses are sitting empty. Please reconsider what this gentleman just said. Look at all that area. The deers that used to come through, the river otters coming through, they're disappearing. I'm seeing roadkill. Please, Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wanted to speak? All right, did the applicant or representative of the applicant want to speak?
Just briefly.
Sure.
Good evening, Joey Posey, 420 South Nova, attorney for the applicant. And, just listening to folks talking about their concerns, I do want to reassure them we have the same concerns in mind. This was the same discussion that happened at first reading. It's the same ongoing discussion that this developer, who happens to be a local gentleman too, and I think I saw in some emails where that may have been a little bit of a confusion with some folks, that he is trying to be sensitive to that. And the other part that I really want to reassure them is that tonight's decision is not of consequence as to the end goal of what this looks like. The only decision being made is control. Who's going to make that decision? And again, that requires, like Penny had pointed out at the beginning of the staff presentation, that we have to engage these neighbors. Regardless of what the code says, we would have done it, but we have to. And these are our neighbors. These are the folks that we're going to be talking to and working through the process. And we may have done ourselves a disservice by giving the hypothetical maximums that we were looking to do, because I think it got some folks scared. But again, those are hypothetical. They're not entitlement because of this decision. So I heard one of the neighbors mention entitlements. Nope, that's not what this is. That's not what's being decided tonight. What's being decided tonight is who's making the decision. So other than that, I just want to reassure them that we will stay engaged and we are going to have those hard discussions with them, because we want to do it the right way. Especially with the stormwater study, I know that I just heard, that's a huge concern for us too, because we don't want to be the problem. So other than that, I'm happy to field questions, but this is a very limited question we're asking tonight. So I just instead of going down the rabbit's hole, I just want to reassure them that we're here. The decision tonight is not blessing of this project, and that we will remain committed to this discussion moving forward. So that was it.
You can hang tight if you want. Councilman Green?
Nope.
No? Councilman Gephardt? Nope. Councilman Foley?
I don't think I have any questions for you. Appreciate everybody, what you had to say. Tracy, I don't know if you have any questions. I don't have any questions for Mr. Posey right now.
No questions for that.
Do you have any comments?
I do.
Go ahead.
So one of the things, I understand flooding. All of us right now, nobody wants to see it 2 feet from the front door, let alone 2 feet in your house. Nobody wants that. One of the things that this annexation is deciding is who does get to make that decision. And I want to point out that when it came in front of me, I looked at it. It's 52 acres with the density of the county can have 4 homes on it. To bring it to 208 homes as a possibility out there. Coming into what they've proposed and things of that nature, which is still not what we're voting on. We drop it from 208 if we annex it into Port Orange, as we drop that to 113. Where's the magic number? That's still to be decided, and it's still a vote, and it's still a different PUD down the road. The reality is as council sits up here, we have a decision to make. Is do we want the county to vote on something to put the possibility of 210 homes out there and you'd have more flooding? I don't think the county would do that, but that is a potential. As Port Orange, we have it knocking it down in half already, and I think it's going to be way lower than that when it comes forward. At least that's my feeling on it. Mrs. Albert, you bring up strong, very good, solid information, and thank you. As a council, we sit here to try to make decisions of how it's going to affect everybody's lives, not today, not tomorrow, but 25, 30 years down the road. That's how I view things. I also view that as a council, we are trying to fix stormwater and flooding from past councils from 35, 40 years ago. So it's a vicious circle. To say that we don't want to annex property into here, anybody who's going to look at you and go, "You're nuts." We do. That's taxation dollars that does help the city to be able to fix stormwater. That is a potential down the road that this property could help the city versus going 100% to the county. But dollars or cents, I'm not looking at that. What I am looking at is that we can try to govern the property to be less homes of half of what it could potentially be. As far as Spruce Creek tributary and the other property, the other 100 acres, that's county. Unfortunately, we don't have a vote or a say in that. We can stand with you, and I would be more than glad to do that, at county council meetings and having those conversations with them, with you. And I'll tell you to reach out to me, and I'll be more than glad to do that. But tonight's vote is dealing with the annexation of the land. Who's going to be able to say what that land can be used for? The city has already designed 100 homes, 110 homes versus the 208. But that's the beginning. This is just talking about the property, who gets to decide that, not how many homes are going on it. That's another several meetings and conversations coming into this down the roadway. But it is a concern, and that's why we have to sit here, and I look at it as being who or which engineers get to put that in place. And I will tell you, the engineering team and staff that we have on Port Orange right now is phenomenal. So I would like to have that be on our side as we go into this for y'all. Scott?
Did you want to?
So I just want to talk a little about this. And when Spruce Creek developed that neighborhood and Waterway Place and Springwater Lane and South Creek Boulevard, Fairview Drive, Steamboat Ridge, I think all the people around these neighborhoods had the same concerns. You're going to flood us out. That's what you're going to do. You're going to flood my farm out. You're going to flood my Lacey Lane out. You're going to flood Lisa Lane out. You're going to flood Russell Drive. You're going to flood all out there in Country Circle, because those homes were there long before that development was finalized out there on Waterway Place and Springwater Lane, because the houses are a lot newer. When you take an aerial view of that, you can see what that developer did. He protected that 50 acres that we're talking about tonight by retention. And he didn't flood that community. And that would have never been approved. So you look at that 52 acres or whatever the number is, 54 acres we're looking at today. When 22 inches of rain hits that right now, where does it go? It doesn't stay there. It's flowing right now. And when we develop that, we're going to control it. And that's the rule. Just like Spruce Creek did. They're not flooding that farm. And if you are, shame on you. But they're not. I mean, there's a very well-defined retention pond running along the north side of this subject property. A very well-defined one. And right now, 22 inches of rain hits that vacant land with no trees on it. Where does it go? Where does it go? It stays there? You've got to be kidding me. Does not stay there. It does not stay there. Water's Edge was a sod farm. Did the water stay in that sod farm? It ran to the least resistance place it could, and no one was managing it. So when we move this into Port Orange's property, we're going to be able to control it. We're going to be able to tell the developer, it's by law. It's clearly right here. It states that once the site is developed, the volume and flow rate of discharged stormwater from the on-site stormwater system into public conveyance systems, which is the swales along Russell Road and Charles Street, must not exceed the discharge volume and flow rate from when the site was undeveloped. under the 100-year storm standard in land development code. So we're gonna hold them to that, just like Spruce Creek development was. So that's just, I want you guys to look at that and have, I can't say have confidence in us, because I've had people come to me over the last couple months saying, man, I've lived here 4 years and I've never flooded. In the last 2 years I've flooded. Like, wait a second, you lived here 40 years and you've never flooded? And then in the last 2 years you flooded? Why? Why did you flood the last 2 major storms? It's because of the amount of rain. If you have lived in a home for 40 years and you've never flooded, things are working. They're working. So right now, is Springwater Lane retention pond flooding this 56 acres when it rains? It's not. So we're going to talk about this what we can control, and what we're voting on tonight is something that we can control and not leave it up to the county, because the county's in a lawsuit right now for flooding neighborhoods, so I'm not going to have any trust in them. So I just wanted to share that, and I want to know, and our engineers can maybe help us. Where does that water go today? The path of least resistance, probably right into your retention pond, and we can stop that.
Lance?
I'm good.
Where's the percolation? Oh, we can't do that from the seats, guys. Sorry. Any other comments?
Yeah, I got a question.
Sure.
Tracy, with respect, could you explain where you're getting the number 208 for county homes? Because I had not understood where that was coming from.
You go into Volusia County urban low density.
Okay.
4 units per acre.
4 units per acre, and you're just mathematically. Okay. I was just curious where that number was coming from.
Councilman Foley.
Penny can clarify that for you if you'd like her to.
Could you, Penny? I was trying to figure out how annexing it in takes the ceiling from 208 to the 113 there.
Penelope Cruz Planning, it does not. There's only a portion of the property that has that designation. Other portions of the property have an agricultural resource. So right now, when you look at the gross of it, it's actually 19 homes.
Yeah,
because they're larger lot. Like the majority of the property has an ag zoning that requires like 10-acre lots. Those large rural subdivisions.
Okay, so because I want to make sure whatever we're saying, we want to be factual.
That's what's in the staff report.
If the entire property had the higher
And I know
density,
that's
you'd get to that
Yes.
number if it's a small portion of the property.
It's gotten portions that have the higher density and portions that have a lower. So when you add it together, you get 19.
Okay.
If it had that category across the whole thing, then yes, it would be a maximum. of 4.
And I'm sure that's an honest mistake.
Yes.
But then
I made it originally when I was looking at their maps.
But let me ask the question then, Penelope. If somebody went towards the county and asked the question to rezone it the same way, they could still do that?
Anybody has the right to ask. It would be up to their council to approve it or not.
Correct. It's a potential.
Correct.
Okay.
Just like they had the right to ask us for more, and your city staff basically said, don't come forward with anything more than 2 units per acre. We will not recommend approval for anything more than that, because that's what's in the area, that's what's appropriate to be consistent and compatible with that area.
Okay.
And I mean no disrespect.
No.
I apologize. I just wanted to make sure I got the correct information in front of me here before I start kind of giving some comments. All right, because this is not the first time that Mr. Posey's been before us with a project where he has brought something forward like Madeline Commons, and I will say I was very pessimistic about working with him on that project. In fact, I believe I voted no the first 1 or 2 times, but throughout the process with that project, they have done a vast amount of stormwater improvements, and they have done partnerships with the school to improve safety there. They have shown me that he's interested in trying to work with the community. I also appreciate that when they're coming forward and asking for this annexation into the city of Port Orange, that it's not, oh, we don't know what we want to do with the property yet. They're being very forthcoming and saying, hey, this is what we're looking at doing. There's a lot of transparency that I'm seeing from the applicant, and that lends me to want to entrust to move forward to the next step with them. With that being said, I also do believe, look, I got flooded twice. I live here in Port Orange. I live over in Sleepy Hollow. I got flooded in Ian, and I got flooded in Milton. And those are two things I can promise you, if I have a third child, will not be considered for names, right? I cannot stand them. I'm also, I'm a member of Spruce Creek Golf Course, right? I play over there all the time because I'm not good enough to play Cypress Head. It hurts the budget too much if I play there. So, anyway, my point being, this applicant is coming forward and saying this is what they're trying to do and being honest with us about it. It's important that I believe it's important that our staff and our engineers have a seat at the table to make sure that we are doing the best we can to hold them to the highest of standards, to the letter of the law, to protect all of us in the city of Port Orange. I know you guys are technically county, but you're still our neighbors, and so we want to do what's right. I have a good feeling about working with this project. That doesn't mean when the application comes forward, after we annex this in and they come forward and they want to develop, if he comes forward with 150 homes, I can tell you I'm going to be a fast no, right? But I want a seat at the table and I want a voice and I want the ability to have that conversation. If we don't annex it, they're just going to probably go to the county and try to get it annexed or try to get the zoning done there. So I don't think us saying no is going to change what's going to happen. It's going to change who is sitting at the table. And I would prefer for me and this council and our staff to have that seat. So that's where I stand with it, and I hope you can understand why I feel that way. I hope I've explained it to some degree.
Okay, good. That's good. So just a couple brief comments that I wanted to make. So I'm a born and raised resident, so I've lived here all my life. I live out in this geographical area for the last 20 plus years of my life, so I'm very familiar with the area, very familiar with the Spruce Creek Fly-In, and the one thing I do want to make sure doesn't go without being talked about is the residents that live in the Spruce Creek Fly-In live in a community that could not be built that way today. And that's because the majority, overwhelmingly, of the Spruce Creek Fly-In, and I'm not 100% sure about Quiet Place, but probably similar there, but that was majority built and developed prior to 1999. The stormwater standards and requirements were not in effect like they are today. And so regardless of this piece of property or any other piece of property now, those standards and requirements are significantly higher. Gentleman mentioned 1,598 properties in the Fly-In, and I'll take your word for that. If you just look at a Google Earth image, a satellite image, Water's Edge neighborhood, which is where I live, has about 1,240 homes, yet exponentially more retention. And that's because that development was built after those standards went into effect, and the city required that retention level be significantly higher. There is a way that the engineers can determine a piece of property and how much water that piece of property will actually hold as is today. And it's not that much in Florida, I'll just be honest with you. In some cases, it might only be 2 or 3 or 4 inches, and then it's running off. Whichever way the topography leads, it's going somewhere. So if there were no homes in these areas, and this area gets 20 inches of rain, that area is flooded, homes are not. Those storms that we have seen, which we have become very, concerned with, we get that we have seen some two storms in 4 years that are total historical anomalies. It may be the new norm. We don't know that. We hope it's not, but we are working diligently to try to improve our infrastructure, try to have higher standards, try to mitigate as much as possible. But 20-inch storms are totally a different thing. That being said, these areas, any areas, whether it's this piece of parcel that we're talking about, or the other one that I know there's some concerns with, or anything else in Volusia County or the state of Florida, they will be built to different standards, folks, and they will be held to different standards. But a lot of areas like the Spruce Creek Fly-In don't have that retention capability. So I don't know if that brings any level of comfort or maybe just clarifies some things, but there will have to be significant stormwater infrastructure and higher standards than some of the older developments. So that is something that our staff in this body has to hold those developers to, and we will absolutely do that. Mm-hmm. And if you look at a lot of those developments that have been built in west of 95 in the city limits, you will see that. If you look at those satellite images, whether that's Cypress Head, Water's Edge, Sanctuary, Sterling Chase, Ashton Lakes, it's unmistakable. Those are not natural lakes that you are seeing. Those are retention ponds that are man-made and built to retain that water and that storm water. And there is only so much you can retain. Water levels, we all know that, you know, you have shallow water levels underneath the earth here in Florida in most cases, especially if you're coastally oriented. So there are limitations to that. But in any regard, I just wanted to make sure that we commented on that and that those standards would be held to and applied. And I completely appreciate everybody coming. I know most everybody that spoke tonight are residents of the Fly-In or Quiet Place, and you're not residents of City of Port Orange, but we want you to know that you're welcome and that your comments and participation in this process, however it goes, and moving forward, you guys are always welcome to that. So we thank you very much for that. And for those that sent emails, I haven't got a chance to respond to all of them, but I appreciate that, and I have read them as well. So, all right, enough of that. Any other comments? We're good?
No, well said.
All right. So, clerk, call the roll on second reading of ordinance number 2025-14 on the annexation of Vintage Acres.
Councilman Foley?
Yes.
Councilman Gephardt?
Yes.
Councilman Green?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Grubbs?
Yes.
Mayor Sullivan?
Yes, 5-0. Item number 17, second reading of ordinance number 2025-16, rezoning of 422 Jefferson Avenue. Mr. City Attorney.
An ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, rezoning property located at 422 Jefferson Avenue consisting of approximately 0.26 acres from community commercial CC to neighborhood preservation NP, authorizing revision of official zoning atlas and providing an effective date.
Move to approve second reading of ordinance number 2025-16.
Second?
I have a motion and a second for approval of items number 17. Council, any comments on second reading for this one?
Nope.
No? Any comments from the public? I don't see Robert getting up. So back to council. Last bite at the apple, council. Anything? Nope. Clerk, call the roll. Second reading ordinance number 2025-16.
Councilman Foley?
Yes.
Councilman Gephardt?
Yes.
Councilman Green?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Grubbs?
Yes.
Mayor Sullivan?
Yes, 5-0. Brings us to council committee reports. First Step Shelter, Councilman Sean Gephardt.
We did not have a meeting this June. We'll be back in July.
Excellent. And how about Port Orange South Daytona Chamber of Commerce?
Yes, just want to mention that July 25th, they have a fundraiser for their casino night. So they're looking for sponsors and participants, so it was a fun night. Also, we had our EchoGov meeting last Thursday and went very well with the 4 cities and met down at Ponce Inlet's Community Center. And it was really nice, and the chamber's doing good.
Good. And just to comment on the chamber, the Barbara Ann and the president of the chamber have asked to meet with me. I feel like his title's the president of the chamber, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have asked to meet with me, so I'll be meeting with them
Chair
next week.
and president.
Yeah, and I'll report back to you guys on what's on their mind. So, any other items to come before us tonight? No? All right. Well, have a great night.